Hello everyone, I am Erica Marie Mythology-ACTUB and I am from the Egyptian Mythology group, and today I am going to discuss to you the major gods and goddesses. So Egypt had one of the largest and most complex pantheons of gods of any civilization in the ancient world. Over the course of Egyptian history, hundreds of gods and goddesses were worshipped. So as what I have read, the characteristics of individual gods could be hard to pin down. Why? Because most had a principal association, for example, with the sun or the underworld and form, but this could change over time as gods arose and fell in importance and evolved in ways that corresponded to developments in Egyptian society. So, here are the few of the most important details to know. So, these are the 11 Egyptian gods and goddesses. First, we have Osiris. So, Osiris, one of the Egypt's most important deities, was god of the underworld. He also symbolized death, resurrection, and the cycle of Nile floods that Egypt relied on for agricultural fertility. So, according to the myth, Osiris was a king of Egypt who was murdered and dismembered by his brother Seth. So, you will know who is Seth later on. So, his wife is Isis. You will also know later who is Isis, reassembled his body and resurrected him, allowing them to conceive a son, the god Horus. So he was represented as a mummified king wearing wrappings that left only the green skin of his hands and face exposed. Next, we have Isis. Isis is Osiris' wife. So, the origins of Isis are obscure. Unlike many gods, she can't be tied to a specific town, and there are no certain mentions of her in the earliest Egyptian literature. Over time, she grew in importance, though eventually becoming the most important goddess in the pantheon as the devoted wife who resurrected Osiris after his murder and raised their son, Horus. Isis embodied the traditional Egyptian virtues of a wife and a mother. So, as the wife of god of the underworld, Isis was also one of the main deities concerned with the rites for the dead, along with her sister Nephthys. Isis acted as a divine mourner, and her maternal care was often depicted as extending to the dead in the underworld. So Isis was one of the last of the ancient Egyptian gods to still be worshipped. So in Greco-Roman period, she was identified with the Greek goddess Aphrodite, and her cult spread as far west as Great Britain, as far east as Afghanistan. So it is believed that depictions of Isis with the infant Horus influenced Christian imagery of Mary with the infant Jesus. Next, we have Horus. Horus is the son of Osiris and Isis. So, depicted as a falcon or as a man with a falcon's head, Horus was a sky god associated with war and hunting. He was also the embodiment of the divine kingship, and in some eras, the reigning king was considered to be a manifestation of Horus. According to the Osiris myth, Horus was the son of Isis, and Osiris magically conceived after the murder of Osiris by his brother Seth. Horus was raised to avenge his father's murder. One tradition holds that Horus lost his left eye fighting with Seth. But his eye was magically healed by the god Thoth, because the right and left eyes of Horus were associated respectively with the sun and the moon. The loss and restoration of Horus' left eye gave a mythical explanation for the phases of the moon. Next, we have Seth. So if you're wondering that Seth has no image, you will know later. So Seth is the murderer of Osiris and also the brother of Osiris. So Seth was the god of chaos, violence, deserts, and storms. In the Osiris myth, he is the murderer of Osiris. In some versions of the myth, he tricks Osiris into laying down in the coffin and then seals it shut. Seth's appearance poses a problem for Egyptologists. Why? Because he is often depicted as an animal or as a human with the head of an animal, but they can't figure out what animal he's supposed to be. So he usually has a long snout and long ears that are squared at the tips. In his fully animal form, he has a thin dog-like body and straight tail with the tufts on the hand. So many scholars now believe that no such animal ever existed and that the set animal is some sort of mythical composite. Next we have Ptah. I don't know how to pronounce this honestly, if it's Ta or Ptah. Ptah was the head of the triad of gods worshipped at Memphis. The other two members of the triad were Ptah's wife, the lion-headed goddess Sekhmet, and the god Neferthem, who may have been the couple's son. So Ptah's original association seems to have been with craftsmen and builders. The fourth dynasty architect Imhotep was deified after his death as a son of Ptah. Scholars have also suggested that the Greek word Aegyptos, the source of the name Egypt, may have started as a corruption of Hatkapatha, the name of the Pithys shrine. Next, we have Re. One of the several deities associated with the sun, the god Re was usually represented the human body and the head of the hawk. It was believed that he sailed across the sky in a boat each day and then made a passage through the underworld each night, during which he would have to defeat the snake god Apophis in order to rise again. So, Greece cult was centered in Heliopolis, now a suburb of Cairo. So, over time, Re came to syncretize with other sun deities, especially Ammon. So, Ammon, you will know later who is Ammon. Next, we have Hathor. The goddess Hathor was usually depicted as a cow, as a woman with the head of a cow, or as a woman with cow's hair. Hathor embodied motherhood and fertility, and it was believed that she protected women in childbirth. She also had an important funerary aspect, being known as the Lady of the West. Tombs were generally built on the west bank of Nile. So, in some traditions, she would welcome the setting sun every night. Living people hoped to be welcomed into the afterlife in the same way. Next, we have Anubis. Anubis was concerned with funerary practices and the care of the dead. He was usually represented as a jackal or as a man with the head of a jackal. The association of jackals with death and funerals like aroused because Egyptians would have observed jackals scavenging around cemeteries. So it was also said that um, in the Old Kingdom, 2575 to 2190 BCE, before Osiris rose to prominence as the lord of the underworld, Anubis was considered the principal god of the dead. So, according to the Osiris myth, Anubis embalmed and wrapped the body of the murdered king, becoming the patron god for embalmer. So, Anubis was the one who embalmed and wrapped the body of Osiris. Next, we have Thoth. Thoth, the god of writing and the wisdom, could be depicted in the form of baboon or a sacred ibis or as a man with the head of an ibis. He was believed to have invented language and hieroglyphic script and to serve as scribe and advisor for the gods. As the god of wisdom, Thoth was said to possess knowledge and magic and secrets and available to other gods. So an underworld scene showing the judgment undergone by the deceased after their death. So Thoth is depicted as weighing the hearts of the deceased and reporting the verdict to Osiris, the god of the dead. Next, we have Bastet. In her earliest form, the cat goddess Bastet was represented as a woman with the head of a lion or a wild cat. She took the less ferocious form of a domestic cat in the first millennium BCE. So in later periods, she was often represented as a regal looking seated cat. So if you can look at in the picture that she's really seated cat. Sometimes wearing rings in her ears or nose. So in the Ptolemaic period, she came to be associated with the Greek goddess Artemis, the divine hunter, and the goddess of the moon. And we have, I think the last one, we have Ammon. So, before rising to the national importance in the kingdom, 1539 to 1292 BCE, the god Ammon was worshipped locally in the southern city of Thebes. Ammon was a god of the air, and the name probably means hidden one. He was usually represented as a man wearing a crown with two vertical plumes, if you can see it in the picture. His animal symbols were the ram and the goose. So after the rulers of Thebes rebelled against a dynasty of foreign rulers known as the Hyksos and re-established native Egyptian rule throughout Egypt. So Ammon received credit for their victory. In a form merged with the sun god Re, he became the most powerful deity in Egypt. So a position he retained for the most of the new kingdom. So today, the massive template complex devoted to Amon-Re at Karnak is one of the most visited monuments in Egypt. So those are the 11 Egyptian gods and goddesses. So if you're going to recall it again, first we have Osiris, the the king of the Egypt who was murdered by his brother Seth, and next we have Isis, Osiris' wife, and Seth, who is the murderer actually, and Horus, Osiris and Isis' son, and siya yung pumalit kang his dad, which nung namatay si Osiris, si Horus yung pumalit. And we also have Ptah, Re, Hathor, Anubis, Thoth, Bastet, and the last one, Ammon. So thank you so much for listening and have a good day. If you have any question, you can raise it to the you can ask me or you can message me. Thank you so much and God bless.